What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our Big Ten channel. I'm going to give you an early projected record for the Minnesota Golden Gophers here in this video. Before we get to 2024, let's look back at some of the projections from 2023. Here were some of those projections from last season. Minnesota, of course, went 5-7 in the regular season. Our projection had them at 6-6, but really, there was more optimism. I predicted 7-5. Athlon predicted 7-5. The over/under was 6.5. You can find it maybe as high as 7.5. And I think really a lot of that just has to do with PJ Fleck. What he had done in Minnesota so far. If you look back at the roster last season, there were some question marks, and the quarterback position did not come through for them. And so you can kind of see how it did get to 5-7. It was a pretty tough schedule. Again, it's a pretty tough schedule this year, but I think they made an upgrade with the transfer quarterback they brought in. And I think this team's going to be better. But let's see what the projection says. Again, this is the schedule. This is the scale that we use. If it's under 20 or over 80, those are pretty much guaranteed wins or losses. 20 to 29, 71 to 80, those are games that are counted. We figure the spread's going to be pretty big, double digits, 2 touchdowns, maybe a little more. 30 to 39, 61 to 70 games where the spread should be closer to a touchdown, 6, 7, 8 points, and then the 50-50 games in the wide. Games that could go either way. We're talking spreads 3, 4, 5 points in those. So we'll start with the easy win. I think Rhode Island is the one pretty much guaranteed win on the schedule. Would be shocked if Minnesota lost that game. I think Nevada, maybe you could put them in the green. I'll say Minnesota will be about a 16-point favorite in this game. This is not a horrible group of 5 team, although I haven't really evaluated them for this year, but just looking at them, traditionally Nevada, again, they're an average group of 5 team. They're not one of the better ones, but they're usually not one of the worst. So yeah, we're putting Nevada there in the blue. And then we go to the other side of this, games where Minnesota is going to be an underdog. I think Wisconsin, this is a tough one. I have Wisconsin as a tier 3 team and Minnesota as a tier 4 team. And because it's on the road, that's why this one is in the yellow here on our scale. But the more I look at Minnesota, I really think that this team could be a lot improved from where they were last year. So this might wind up being more of a 50-50 game. But we're going to put it in the yellow, again, just using the formula that we use. And then I think you've got some games in the orange. Michigan and Penn State. Michigan being on the road, Penn State at home. But I think Minnesota is going to be at least a 2-touchdown underdog in both of those games. And so you got 3 games where they're going to be a pretty big underdog. Maybe Wisconsin's not too much, but definitely Penn State, Michigan. And then the rest of the schedule, it's really just a bunch of games that could go either way. I think USC is probably in a tier above Minnesota. I think Iowa is in a tier above Minnesota. Maybe even Maryland, but they get all those games at home. I think North Carolina, a pretty even matchup. And then you've got UCLA, Illinois, and Rutgers, pretty even matchups. Those games all coming on the road. So you just get a bunch of 50-50 games. And really that's the way it is with a lot of these teams in the Big Ten. And really across college football, you've got your top tier, then you've got your next teams, and then there's just a big group of teams. Minnesota's in that group. I think USC's in that group. I think UCLA's in that group. I think Maryland probably in that group. Rutgers in that group. Illinois, maybe not, but that game is on the road, and that's why it's a 50-50 game. So again, you got a bunch of games that can go either way. If they win some close games or win a lot of close games, I think it's going to be a good season. If they lose a lot of these close games, they're going to have a very disappointing season. So which way will it go? Of course, we don't know, but the averages tell us that if everything averages out, they're going to go 6-6. So enough to get to a bowl game, a little bit better than last year. And if you just take Rhode Island and Nevada and count them as wins, and then you take Michigan, Penn State, and Wisconsin as losses, that would mean there are, 7 games left here? So they would have to go 4-3 in those games. If they go 3-4 in those games, it's no bowl game. But if they can do a little bit better, maybe get to 5-2, they get to 7-5, or who knows, maybe they even pull off a big upset. Maybe they shock Penn State late in the season, or they beat Wisconsin. There are a lot of different ways this could go, but again, the projection does come out to 6-6. That's what the projection was last year, and again, they went under that. I kind of think they have a better chance of going over than under this year, but I would have said the same thing last year, so we'll see how it plays out. But with Minnesota projected at 6-6, do you guys agree? Do you disagree? Give me your thoughts on this team and your projections down in the comments below.